Hi, welcome to Stitchback Stories. I'm Michelle, and in this video I'm going to show you how I make my pocket tees. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because I'm just pumping out content and we're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm making sewing, embroidery, and DIY gear videos, and I just have a lot of tips and techniques I want to share, so make sure you stick around. And without further ado, let's get started! Before I start embroidering, I like to create a template that I use to help me cut out the fabric and properly place the design. This entire green area is going to be the final pocket size, which for me is 4 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. Obviously, if you want a different size or shape, you can make those adjustments accordingly. This darker green area represents the hem that will be folded over, so there will be top stitching in this area, and I don't want any of the embroidery overlapping here. Finally, I'm going to draw a square that is 2 inches by 2 inches and measures 1 inch away from the sides and bottom and 1.5 inch from the very top. It's a little bit confusing, but it's going to make sense when I cut this out. Once I have all those measurements, I'm going to draw it out on a piece of cardstock. So first, I'm drawing the final size that I want the pocket to be, which is 4 inches by 4.5 inches. Next, I'm adding an additional line on both sides and the bottom that is 1/2 inch away. This is going to be the seam allowance. On the top, I'm adding a line that is 3/4 inch away and an additional line that is 1/4 inch from the one I just drew. The first line represents how much fabric I'm going to fold over, and the extra 1/4 inch is for the hem. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this shape out along the outside lines. And then I'm going to draw the 2 inches by 2 inches square that measures 1 inch away from the inner line on the sides and the bottom. And I'm going to cut that out as well. I know this seems a little tedious, but if you plan on making multiple pocket tees, this will really streamline the process. For the actual pocket fabric, I like to buy an extra large shirt in the same color that I'm making my tee, but you can use whatever you'd like. Use the template to figure out how much fabric to cut. I like to cut my fabric a little bit bigger than the template just to be safe. Hoop a piece of cutaway stabilizer. For my simple mushroom design, I'm using 1 layer, but when embroidering a much more stitch intensive design like this cute little guy, I like to use 2. Mark the center point of your hoop. You can use the guides on the edge of the hoop, or what I like to do is have my design ready on my machine, and then I push the needle down into the stabilizer and then bring it back up. This will create a hole to indicate the center of your design, and I find this technique helpful if I am embroidering multiple pockets at once. Match the center hole to the center of the open square on the template. Use this to add a guide for where to place the fabric. Take some temporary fabric adhesive and spray it on the back of the pocket. Lay the pocket on the stabilizer and make sure the fabric covers the entire area of the guides that we just drew. My fabric is pretty big, so I don't have to worry too much here, but if I cut out a smaller piece, I want to be more careful. Tape a few pieces of water-soluble topper to the area that you are going to embroider. This is ready for the machine now. Go ahead and stitch out the entire design. Once you are done embroidering, trim any jump stitches and rip off the stabilizer. It should come off pretty easily. If there are still small pieces of the stabilizer left, just take a damp towel and wipe them away. Take the design out of the hoop and trim away the excess stabilizer around the design. Okay, so now I'm going to use a template to cut away the extra fabric. Make sure to center the embroidered design to the center of the square hole. And I'm just trimming with a ruler and rotary cutter. Next, I'm going to iron 2 folds on the top side of the pocket. First, I'm going to fold the fabric to meet with the first guideline and iron. And then I'm going to open it up and then fold again to meet the second guideline and iron again. Because we used the fabric adhesive spray, you might not need any pins, and you can just fold the 2 creases down. Iron again if you'd like. Now we're going to sew 2 lines of top stitching. Use a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance for the first stitch, making sure to catch the folded fabric in the back. Sew a second line about 3/16 of an inch from the first. Feel free to backstitch. Also, I recommend a ballpoint needle for this. So this is what the pocket is looking like so far. Now we want to iron in the side and bottom hems by bringing the fabric to match the appropriate guidelines. I like to iron the sides first and then the bottom. Lay your shirt out flat and pin the iron pocket to the left chest. You can eyeball this or match the measurement of a pocket shirt that you like. Hold the shirt up and make sure you like the placement. When sewing the pocket in place, you want to sew triangles on the top two corners to create a strong pocket. So I like to start at this point and then sew up, across, and all the way around. And then I come across again and finish at this point. When you bring the t-shirt to the machine, make sure you are only sewing on one side and not sewing the t-shirt shut. Don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Take your time with this part. I find that the pocket looks best when you get as close to the edge as possible. To make sure I don't go over the edge, I usually like to hand crank the last couple stitches around the corners. T-shirts are knit fabrics, so you want to be careful that the fabric doesn't move around too much. Every few stitches, I like to stop, leave my needle down, and then lift the presser foot to adjust the fabric, preventing it from bunching up. And that's pretty much it. Trim the threads on the end and you are done. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments section, and I'll see you next time. Bye!